Khamzat Chimaev may finally be facing his toughest stylistic challenge yet. And two respected voices in the fight game, Chael Sonnen and Sean Strickland, have weighed in with bold predictions that have the MMA world buzzing. Both Sonnen and Strickland recently broke down the potential matchup between Chimaev and current middleweight champ Dricus du Plessis, DDP, and their insights have ignited heated debate among fans and analysts alike. Chael Sonnen, renowned for his analytical breakdowns and deep understanding of fight styles, pointed out a critical question that could define the fight. Can Chimaev take du Plessis down at will and keep him there? While Chimaev has steamrolled through most of his opponents with relentless pressure and suffocating wrestling, Sonnen believes du Plessis might be the man to change that narrative. If DDP can defend early takedowns and avoid spending significant time on the mat, he could drastically alter the flow of the fight. However, if Khamzat manages to drag du Plessis down early and impose his game, it could be a short night. Sonnen still sees Chimaev as the betting favorite, but cautioned fans not to underestimate du Plessis' grit, durability, and highly underrated grappling. Then comes Sean Strickland, who has fought du Plessis twice, making his perspective especially valuable. In a recent interview with Helen Yee, Strickland echoed Sonnen's analysis, praising Chimaev's elite wrestling and non-stop pressure, but added a decisive thought. If Dricus can stuff the takedowns and counter-wrestle, he wins the fight. Why? Hands down! Never one to pull punches. Strickland even joked that he could handle most of those effing Chechens in the gym, but wasn't confident DDP could say the same. Still, he made one thing clear. If du Plessis can deal with Chimaev's pressure and neutralize the wrestling, the belt's not going anywhere. With Chimaev's undefeated streak, du Plessis' heart and power, and first-hand insights from fighters who've been in the octagon with them, this potential title bout is shaping up to be one of the most electric showdowns of the year. So, fight fans, what do you think? Will Chimaev overwhelm DDP early and score another dominant finish? Or will the South African survive the storm, turn up the pressure late, and solidify himself as the top dog at 185 lbs? Drop your takes in the comments. This one could go either way. In a recent thought-provoking segment, MMA analyst Luke Thomas laid out a scenario that could spell serious trouble for the UFC. What happens if both Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria lose their upcoming fights? It might sound far-fetched. Both fighters are highly skilled and on hot streaks. But Luke called this a nightmare scenario for a reason. Makhachev is moving up to welterweight to face the dangerous Jack Della Maddalena, while Topuria defends his featherweight title against Charles Oliveira, two incredibly tough matchups. If both Islam and Ilia were to fall, the UFC would be staring down a massive PR and branding setback. Let's be honest, the UFC is already struggling with star power. Alex Pereira just lost his title, and Conor McGregor, once the face of the sport, is more known these days for bizarre headlines and questionable behavior than his fighting. That leaves rising stars like Islam and Ilia as some of the last torchbearers of global appeal. Islam Makhachev isn't just a dominant champion. He represents elite grappling and carries huge influence across Russia and Dagestan. Ilia Topuria is an explosive young talent with dynamic striking and a growing European fan base. If either of them loses, the UFC's narrative of building new global superstars takes a hit. But if both fall, that's a full-blown crisis. Thomas warned that such losses would expose the UFC's ongoing struggle to build blockbuster stars who can carry the brand into the next generation. And there's not exactly a long list of fighters waiting in the wings to take that spot. So what happens next if this worst-case scenario comes true? Luke floated a few possibilities. Islam could return to lightweight and work his way back to a title shot. Ilia's path is less clear, given he's just begun his reign as champion and doesn't yet have a deeply rooted base like Islam. To make matters worse, Thomas pointed out a final compounding factor. If Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall doesn't happen, due to injury, contract disputes, or timing, then the UFC could be staring down one of its most disappointing years ever. A perfect storm of fading stars, big losses, and missed marquee matchups. The UFC is at a crossroads. Will its champions rise and deliver? Or are we looking at a brutal reset in the sport's power structure? Let us know your thoughts, predictions, and hot takes. Because the next few months could change the face of MMA as we know it. The UFC's ongoing quest to crown the next generation of superstars may be hitting a critical wall. As the promotion navigates a star-power drought, all eyes are now on Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria to carry the brand forward. But what if they don't? With Islam making his welterweight debut against the surging Jack Della Maddalena and Ilia set to defend his featherweight title against Charles Oliveira, the stakes couldn't be higher. A loss for either would be damaging. A loss for both could send the UFC into one of its most uncertain periods in recent memory. These fighters are more than champions. Islam represents not only elite-level grappling, but also a deep connection to the Russian and Dagestani MMA markets. Ilia is quickly becoming a European sensation with his fast-paced striking and undefeated run. If either falls short, the momentum halts. If both lose, the UFC may find itself scrambling to maintain global relevance in a competitive combat sports landscape. With Conor McGregor reduced to headlines more scandalous than sporting, and figures like Jon Jones fighting infrequently or facing extended layoffs, the UFC has fewer active stars to lean on than ever. Islam and Ilia have become pillars in the company's current marketing strategy. Whether they can withstand the pressure could define the promotion's immediate future. Just when fans thought the long-standing beef between Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett might have cooled off, the flames have reignited. Tensions between the two have flared back up as Topuria prepares to move up to lightweight and Paddy continues to climb the division. For a moment, it looked like the animosity had simmered down. After all, the two shared a friendly backstage moment with a fist bump at UFC London, leading many to believe the rivalry was behind them. But as Topuria edges closer to title contention, Pimblett has resumed taking shots. In a recent interview, Pimblett accused Topuria of being hand-fed his path to the title by the UFC. The Scouser argued that Topuria's wins over legends like Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway came at the perfect time, when both were coming off brutal wars or KO losses and were not operating at their peak. Pimblett also made a bold claim, stating that apart from Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, a fight between himself and Topuria would be the biggest and most exciting matchup the UFC could make right now. When asked about Pimblett's comments during an interview with WOW 19, Topuria didn't hold back. He jabbed at Pimblett's lifestyle, referencing the extravagant private yacht party Pimblett threw after his win over Michael Chandler at UFC 314. With a grin, Topuria said, "Paddy knows where the money is now. He's got to pay for the parties. He throws." While the comment was light-hearted, the tension remains very real. This is a matchup brimming with personal history, clashing styles, and massive fan interest. If the UFC chooses to make this bout, it could easily become one of the most talked-about showdowns of the year. Merab Dvalishvili delivered another relentless performance in his recent win over Umar Nurmagomedov. But what fans didn't know at the time was that he was battling serious health issues behind the scenes. In a revealing interview with MMAfighting.com, coach John Wood shed light on just how difficult the lead-up to the fight truly was for Merab. Wood called the bout one of the toughest of Merab's career and admitted that the Georgian fighter was far from healthy heading into it. According to Wood, Merab was dealing with a staph infection, an open wound, and was on heavy antibiotics throughout training camp. The infection was so severe that he could barely walk at times. Wood confessed that if it had been solely up to him, he likely would have pulled Merab from the fight. Despite these setbacks, Merab pushed forward with his trademark grit. He still managed to get in 10 rounds of sparring in the final weeks of camp. His performance, even under these dire conditions, was nothing short of remarkable. Wood described his internal struggle during the fight, saying, "I knew he could do it. In my head I was like, we're going to win this fight. But at the same time I was thinking, Jesus, he's so banged up." This behind-the-scenes look adds a whole new layer of appreciation for Dvalishvili's performance. It also casts a different light on the competitive fight with Umar, who many assumed was dealing with issues of his own. In the end, Merab's win becomes even more impressive, given the adversity he overcame just to step into the cage. Merab Dvalishvili's warrior mentality exposed. After battling through serious health issues, new revelations about Merab Dvalishvili's recent win over Umar Nurmagomedov have given fans a deeper appreciation for his performance. Coach John Wood confirmed that Merab was far from healthy on fight night and had been dealing with serious setbacks leading into the bout. Wood revealed that Merab had been suffering from an open wound, a staph infection, and was taking heavy antibiotics. Throughout camp, he described the situation bluntly, saying, "Merab was half dead going into that fight." Despite barely being able to walk, Merab still pushed through training, completing 10 rounds of sparring and showing up fight night in warrior form. The coach also addressed rumors coming from Umar's team suggesting he was injured. Wood dismissed these excuses, stating, "You guys asked for the fight. You wanted it before Ramadan. Now it's, oh, my hand was hurt." Everyone's always got excuses. In contrast, Wood pointed out that Merab doesn't rely on excuses and wouldn't use health issues as a reason if he were to lose. This new perspective highlights just how remarkable Merab's performance truly was, competing under extreme physical duress and still defeating a top-tier prospect like Umar cements his reputation as one of the division's toughest and most determined athletes. A rematch now seems even more intriguing, with both fighters possibly returning at full strength. Fans will be watching closely as this rivalry continues to evolve. Bisping breaks down why Khamzat Chimaev has the edge over Dricus du Plessis. Former middleweight champion and respected analyst Michael Bisping recently shared his take on the upcoming title fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus du Plessis. According to Bisping, one major factor could give Khamzat a distinct edge in this high-stakes battle. His recent move up to 185 pounds. Bisping explained that Chimaev's decision to leave the welterweight division was not just tactical, but necessary. Previously fighting at 170 pounds, Chimaev endured brutal weight cuts that compromised his health and performance. These extreme cuts left him drained and unable to fully recover between bouts. Now at middleweight, Chimaev no longer faces that physical toll. Bisping believes this move will allow him to breathe easier, recover faster, and fight at full strength. He also encouraged other fighters to consider similar moves if they struggle with weight cuts, citing long-term health and performance as crucial factors. Chimaev's journey has not been smooth. He's dealt with botched cuts and even severe COVID complications that nearly forced him into early retirement. While his dominance early in fights is undisputed, questions about his cardio in the later rounds still linger. That's where du Plessis becomes a major threat. Known for his elite conditioning and relentless pace, du Plessis has shown time and again that he can thrive in deep waters. Whether it was against Sean Strickland or Israel Adesanya, he's maintained pressure and composure into the championship. Rounds Bisping suggests this title fight may come down to the final rounds. Chimaev might control the early exchanges with his grappling and aggression, but the true test will be whether he can maintain that intensity deep into the fight. Du Plessis will be ready to exploit any fatigue and seize momentum late. This clash of styles, Chimaev's explosive starts versus du Plessis's late-round durability, makes for one of the most compelling and unpredictable title fights of the year. All eyes will be on whether Chimaev's move to middleweight pays off, or if Du Plessis can outlast and outwork the Chechen powerhouse. Paddy Pimblett sends a calculated message to Ilia Topuria. A mid-rising title, stakes, Paddy Pimblett has once again inserted himself into the championship conversation, this time with a surprisingly strategic comment about Ilia Topuria. In a recent statement, Pimblett said that it would actually be better for his career if Ilia defeats Charles Oliveira and becomes the new lightweight champion. While it might sound like an unexpected endorsement, Paddy's logic is straightforward. If Topuria captures the belt, Pimblett sees himself as the natural pick for the first title defense. It's a massive opportunity, and Paddy is clearly positioning himself to capitalize on it. Backing his words with action, Pimblett took to Instagram to post a powerful photo of his head-kick KO over Michael Chandler, one of his biggest career highlights. The caption read, "Can't wait to land one of these on Sir," a clear implication that Topuria is the next target. This subtle but bold message adds more heat to the already simmering rivalry. Pimblett has built his brand around showmanship and charisma, while Topuria is quietly building a legacy through skill and composure. Their contrasting personalities make this a natural headline matchup. If Ilia does claim the lightweight title, the road to a blockbuster showdown with Paddy seems inevitable. And with both fighters on hot streaks and surrounded by buzz, this could become one of the most marketable and electrifying title fights in UFC history. For now, all eyes are on the outcomes of their respective next fights. If everything aligns, Paddy versus Ilia might not just be speculation. It could be the defining moment of the UFC's lightweight division.